So today being the 7th of April 2026 marks 1 year since the opening of the controversial Silvertown tunnel. But the real question I want to answer is, was it all worth it? Has the Silvertown tunnel been a success or not? Let me explain. So plans for new major road crossings in East London began in the 1960s, with proposals like the East London River Crossing and Thames Gateway Bridge, which were intended to connect Gallions Reach and Thamesmead, the Belvedere Crossing, and a new tunnel in the Blackwall area. Ultimately, by the 1990s, a route between the Greenwich Peninsula and Silvertown was safeguarded, and this safeguarding was handed over to the newly created TfL, or Transport for London, by 2001. The government and the Mayor of London then approved this new route proposal by 2018, and construction started by 2021. The tunnel then opened to the public on the 7th of April 2025, but its opening hasn't been without controversy, as I will now explain. First of all, the tunnel is located in an area that already has 3 other river crossings, which are the Blackwall Tunnel, Jubilee Line, and London's cable car service. Surely it wouldn't have been too much effort to build a crossing in an area that desperately needs one, like Thamesmead or Beckton or Woolwich or, Belvedere, or even Rotherhithe, but one of the more glaring issues with this tunnel is that it is a road tunnel only. Cyclists are not even allowed to cycle through this tunnel, unlike the Rotherhithe tunnel. But what cyclists got was not a permit to just cycle through the tunnel, but a crappy cycle shuttle bus service. This bus carries people with bikes, obviously, from Royal Victoria DLR station over to a stop at Millennium Way on the Greenwich Peninsula, through the Silvertown tunnel in the process. Unfortunately, both stops for the cycle shuttle are placed in very, very poor locations. While the northern stop is, decently well placed because it's near a DLR station and cable car, the southern stop is unfortunately not, because it's just located on a dual carriageway nowhere near any cycling infrastructure. And to make matters worse, the northern stop is also nowhere near any cycling infrastructure, despite being next to the DLR and the cable car, with the nearest cycleway being C3, located at the top of this map, and the nearest cycleway for the southern stop is C14. Sure, you could just get off the bus and just cycle over to those cycleways if that's what some cyclists think, but it is massively inconvenient because you're having to share the roads and lanes with other traffic, and you even have to share some walkways with pedestrians as well. So, it's a competition, I guess. But what's even more stupid is the times that this bus operates. It only operates between 6:30 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. every day except Christmas Day, and runs every 12 minutes, which is 5 buses per hour. Now, a lot of people do actually work at night and have bikes to commute to work, and they primarily work night shift hours in many logistics and manufacturing jobs, and yet they can't use this bus in order to cross the river at North Greenwich, and just have to resort to the night tube's Jubilee line, which I don't know if you can take a bike on the tube, considering that e-bikes are not permitted anywhere on TfL services apart from this bus. But the sad thing is that that's not even the worst part of this bus. The worst bit is its low capacity, because you can only take 8 standard bikes onto one bus at a time. Yes, you heard me right, only 8 bikes. And with 5 buses per hour, that means only 40 bikes can cross the tunnel at a time per hour. I don't know how to say this. This is very bad. And in the busiest hour, it can resort to a lot of people waiting at either bus stop just to allow for, one bus to just be free, in order for people to secure space. And yet TfL are going to make this service paid next month, which will incentivize less people to use this bus in the long term. So, I guess this cycle shuttle bus will be doomed to fail in the next few years. And actually, this went so far as for a protest to be organized by 1,000 cyclists. And the aim of this protest was to highlight a lack of cycling infrastructure through the Silvertown Tunnel. So, TfL no, and yet nothing was done. Anyways, a bit of change of pace, let's talk about the other routes that use the Silvertown Tunnel, starting with the SL4. This bus runs from West Ferry Circus in Canary Wharf over to Grove Park Station on the Southeastern lines, going through the Silvertown Tunnel in the process. However, the SL4 doesn't feel very express to me, apart from one section which goes through the Silvertown Tunnel until at least Kidbrooke. But in the other sections, I felt that the bus was just like stop, 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 stop. And yeah, it just didn't go very fast, so I would suggest to get rid of most stops and just have it run from Canary Wharf directly to the Silvertown Tunnel, and to just skip the stops in the southeast portion of the route. But what baffles me is that the SL4 doesn't serve North Greenwich Station at all, even though it passes just near it, so it wouldn't be too much effort just to make the SL4 stop there. Now, Route 129, which also goes through the Silvertown Tunnel, had the most positive changes out of any other bus route in the city, as before it was just a very short route, actually one of London's shortest bus routes, only about 2 miles, but it was extended at its western and eastern ends, with its eastern end going all the way over to Galleon's Reach Eastern Quay. That is a positive change, and I'm really glad TfL has undertaken that. And what TfL also did with the opening of the Silvertown Tunnel last year is that they introduced free travel to any bus route which went near the Silvertown Tunnel or inside of it, which included the SL4 and 129, and it also included the 108 bus route, which is the single-deck bus that goes through the Blackwall Tunnel. This free travel scheme also covered the DLR between King George V and Woolwich Arsenal, and between Island Gardens and Cutty Sark. However, right at the time that free travel scheme was put into place, Cutty Sark Station closed for 1 year to have its escalators replaced and repaired. So, basically, rather than having that section of the free travel removed, they just extended it between Island Gardens and Greenwich, so that is a good change, but Cutty Sark Station has now reopened, so yeah, that doesn't really make a difference. However, an extra negative to the scheme is that, as part of the Silvertown Tunnel project, the Blackwall Tunnel received tolls, which is a change I don't like or understand, because the only 2 crossings left in East London that don't have tolls are the Rotherhithe Tunnel and the Woolwich Ferry, so you'll get more cars and trucks concentrated on those 2 locations. And the Silvertown Tunnel had tolls the first time it opened as well, so what I can understand with the toll strategy that TfL is thinking about is that it will incentivize more people to use public transport in this area, like electric buses, the Jubilee line, and the DLR, because it will be cheaper and you can get an advantage for using transport over the car, because you don't have to pay for insurance, petrol, or tolls. Because, while the car is still necessary, you don't really need to use it for work or whilst traveling in this area. But despite tolls being introduced, cars will still be concentrated in this area, especially with the Blackwall and Silvertown tunnels being in pretty similar locations. And it will increase the risk of climate change and pollution, because while this area is in the ULEZ zone, obviously the entirety of Greater London is considered a ULEZ zone. Cars which don't comply with the ULEZ regulations would have to pay a penalty fare. And there are a lot of vehicles around Greater London that don't comply with this requirement. So this led to a lot of controversy amongst a lot of people over why the mayor decided to build a road tunnel designed for cars, despite trying to combat climate change problems in London and, in fact, the UK. Because at the moment, the Silvertown Tunnel is not very useful as a road tunnel. Because all we're trying to do is reduce the effects of climate change in London and the UK. So, what could be the solutions? So we need to encourage cyclists to use the tunnel by just getting rid of that shuttle bus service and just make cyclists use the tunnel 24/7. And in fact, there's even been some concept art designed for it, along with making the Silvertown Tunnel bus only as well. But at the moment, I think the Silvertown Tunnel is an insult to the environment. It's a weird combination of having a modern road tunnel built in 2026 in a location which has a bunch of other river crossings and an express route that doesn't feel express at all. And there's no way I could ever recommend the SL4 or anyone traveling through the Silvertown Tunnel for that regard. Just use other modes of transport to cross the river, or just other river crossings in general. But overall, East London desperately needs more and more and more river crossings. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel for more content. And yeah, as always, I'll see you all next time.